Thanks to Julia and the team there. Some brilliant context for what we're about to talk about now, which is Mindshare's 8th annual Trends Report. So listening to consumers remains key, enabling us to create more valuable experiences for them. In terms of methodology, as usual, we carried out trend-specific quant and qual studies, and we have the advantage of being able to compare results to previous years. Consumer opinion, as always, is hugely varied, but it doesn't always hinge on demographics, and we've pulled out people's tech mindsets more prominently this year. Whether they're early, mainstream or late tech adopters is often a key driver of difference. Additionally, in the early stages of the project, we turned to our media partners to uncover what they're watching and working on for 2022 as well. And here is the result. So this year we have 24 trends that are organised into the same consistent overarching themes we had last year. They now comprise a combination of new and past trends that have either accelerated, stayed static, or they're breakout trends in their own right. Although we do check in briefly on past trends in the report, we've decided to feature 5 in particular in more detail this year. So last year it saw COVID turn our trends upside down. But this year, when we map them onto our trendscape to assess their relative maturity and progress over the next 12 months, their movement is less pronounced than it was last year, as you can see. And the majority of our past trends are still accelerating, but more steadily. Trends like body talks remain newly emerged, and trends like cashless society continue to develop at the mature end of the spectrum. None have been completely redirected this year, and a few, like OM5G, remain more static. Our 4 new breakout trends in green make up the majority of the 5 feature trends we're going to talk about today. But although the trajectory of our trends has evened out, the pace of digital transformation continues to power on. What we see now, which is perhaps more impactful, is a bedding in of newly acquired digital habits, prompting higher levels of expectation. Compared to previous years, the extent to which tech now permeates people's lives is particularly noticeable. And with this, the increase in people's base level of tech knowledge. Even those later tech adopters are using devices more prolifically and are more digitally savvy than they were before. So let's set off by exploring the trends in the first of our wider themes, media mindsets. So media and tech remains a digital lifeline for people, and a more positive mindset around it persists. The rise of the more conscious media choice powers on in mindful media. People still remain conflicted about the influence of algorithmic recommendations in tunnel vision, but opinions haven't moved on much, so this one stays static. And the quest for more engaging ad formats rages on in ad breaks. But it's our new and first feature trend that I want to talk more about, green media. Step by step, we see the media industry taking responsibility for reducing the impact of climate change. People are expecting companies to play their part in making the world a better place. The media industry doesn't escape that expectation, with 50% agreeing that media brands should take an active stance on big issues in society. And what could be a bigger issue than saving humanity? 2021 saw the ad association's Ad Net Zero bring the industry together in a collective mission to make themselves carbon neutral by 2030. And this year we'll see the next phase get underway. Media brands and agencies are certainly finding new ways to operate. Every aspect is being rethought, from the way we make, plan and buy ads through to the medium of delivery and ultimately the messages we carry. Let's look at a couple of these in more detail. Let's take the way ads are planned and bought. With the digital ad ecosystem comprising such a huge part of our business now, the energy demands of the industry have increased substantially. Now 55% of WPP's carbon emissions come from the media it uses for distributing ads, versus just 14% on production. So it's no surprise that the first wave of carbon calculators for media plans are emerging. Group M's is open source. It measures media emissions from planning, buying and distribution, and helps identify the areas of a media plan where carbon needs to be offset. Currently, these types of calculators are more suited to higher level channel planning, but they are a brilliant start and will be able to tackle more granular plans soon. Media could well start being represented in CSR scores, and measures like return on net carbon could become part of our KPIs and remuneration. And the emergence of a more measured approach doesn't just stop at the media we plan and buy. It'll extend to the messages we put out into the wider world too. It has been suggested that the industry needs a framework to measure the overall impact of our campaigns. The financial industry already has this with financed emissions. The ad industry should be working towards a similar equivalent of advertised emissions. Until we get to that point, it's useful to work out the impact of our messages, as Mindshare did here with their recent Hellmann's Cook Clever, Waste Less campaign with Channel 4. And let's turn to the delivery format of the content or ad too, where the out-of-home industry is setting the bar. Not only is investment being fed back into local communities, but some more innovative tech installations are also emerging. Many of these help create cleaner air by absorbing or filtering pollution. New formats such as living walls and bee bus stops are being used to encourage biodiversity. Even traditional digital sites are now being turned off or dimmed at night and powered via solar or more renewable energy sources. Bus stops that provide solar-powered Wi-Fi have just arrived on the scene, but perhaps more interestingly, they also provide CO2 data back to the council. And we're starting to see even fresher approaches as the number of media businesses born into this space grows. Sustainable lifestyle magazine Pebble, for example, or Impact Wavy, which is a new social impact media platform uniting people, businesses and non-profits. And from an ad perspective, initiatives from new companies are equally as interesting, with some aiming to radically change the ad model entirely. We Are 8, for example, is an app and community platform that rewards users for watching ads and then donates to good causes. It's a slightly different take on the Good Loop model. Alternatively, a new solution from company Right Thing Media bypasses the user entirely. Using existing ad budgets, they negotiate price reductions with digital media vendors, for example InSkin, and the saving is then used to offset that campaign's carbon impact via their network of social impact non-profits. With such diverse and innovative approaches happening in this space, it's clear that change is already happening. And now let's turn to our commerce trends. It will come as no surprise that everything in this space is accelerating. In this brand new world of disrupted commerce, we continue to see brands try fresh approaches. Tech continues to revolutionise payment systems and accelerate our transition to a cashless society. And significant strangers are even more prominently influencing our purchases. But now onto our feature trend for commerce. Last year we highlighted shoppable media as one of our trends, where media and commerce are linking up more seamlessly for ease of purchase. In just a year, this one has really picked up pace, so much so that we decided it deserved a refeature with all of its new developments. In the last year, the social platforms have trialled many new shoppable features, even changing their interfaces entirely. Developments are being rolled out and scale fast across markets. It's still a steep learning curve for both platforms and brands, but all involved are becoming more confident and creative. More sophisticated AI and AR solutions are emerging, and the back-end logistics to help brands integrate their product catalogues and business systems are improving rapidly too. Good news for those end users who don't want the annoyance of being sent round the houses or having to enter their contact details again upon purchase. But we must consider that on some occasions people would prefer to be sent out of platforms to shop on a branded site. This tends to be for higher value items or where people want the reassurance of a trusted brand. Eventually, social commerce will expand to bigger ticket purchases such as cars and homes, perhaps not entirely via one click, but certainly as a means to drive calls to action. For now though, platforms will need to be mindful of the fact that people, even early adopters, can be hesitant when purchasing even smaller items directly from social media for fear of being scammed. Expect reviews and recommendations to feature more prominently in the social shopping spaces of the future. Live stream shopping has also been gaining momentum in Europe. Amazon Live is now in beta in the UK, and most social platforms introduced live stream shopping events last year. More brands are tapping into live streams for product launches, demos, limited edition drops, with entertainment-based live stream content continuing to grow. Brands like YouTube are also honing their tools so that anyone can host a live stream shop. Having said all of this, there's still a way to go in the West before we get anywhere near the established and more advanced live stream shopping culture of China. Their live streams are now selling more diversified items, and they've started to integrate virtual hosts, 5G, 3D, AR and VR technologies. But fundamentally, the basic culture needs to establish itself first here. The same tactics might not prove popular in Europe. Live stream audiences aren't as young as in other markets, and viewers tend to prefer shorter streams. And last year we highlighted shoppable TV as an area to watch. It remains so. A year on, innovations seen in other markets are making their way to Europe. The application of QR codes in TV ads has become more widespread, but it's the more integrated solutions that are also gaining momentum. ITV partnered with LG to make Boots products shoppable in Love Island, for example. What we see next will be facilitated by a new wave of branded TVs that have just launched, the two major ones being from Amazon and Sky. Branded TVs present all kinds of possibilities, including interactive formats, new forms of product placement, and more direct ways to shop items featured in content. People felt quite excited about shoppable TV, especially those 25 to 44s and early adopters. No more frantically Googling what we see on TV, but the practicalities did cross people's minds. They want clutter-free, optional experiences that don't take their attention away from the programme. They also raised concerns about how to stop the kids ordering everything and wondered how things were going to be fulfilled, which Amazon surely have covered. TV is only the beginning. Every piece of media and advertising has the potential to be shoppable in the future. Google recently announced that shoppable images will soon be included within search results. Buying products in virtual environments is also a space to watch, which we'll touch upon in more detail later. And as more connectivity is added, another shoppable environment to watch is the car. With increased integration of voice assistants like Alexa and companies trialling in-car payment systems, our vehicles could become the new shoppable media spaces of the future. Imagine the speak and collect possibilities en route to retail locations, for example. In-car voice-activated shopping was our most popular shoppable concept with consumers. And with any of these activations, though, there is one big thing to consider. As our reality check report highlights, a more conscious approach to consumerism is emerging. Many people viewed shoppable solutions as a new way to impulse purchase, which for them was both good and bad. They liked the idea of the ease of purchase and the serendipity of discovering new things online, as they would an unplanned store purchase, but there were some underlying concerns. They didn't want to be encouraged to impulse shop more frequently for things they don't need. Some mentioned having bought items from social platforms and then regretting it later. It's more sensible then to think about creating shoppable solutions that serve real-world needs rather than cultivating unnecessary wants. In people's minds, there is a future for shoppable media, but it needs to be more about conscious convenience rather than a way for companies to just flog them more stuff. And on to our third and potentially the meatiest theme of experiences. Certainly a lot of progress has been happening in this space when it comes to our existing trends. Disruption in the streaming space rages on, our cameras continue to supercharge our digital experiences, and gaming has really established itself as a mainstream media activity. But there's more. We have two new breakout trends under our experiences theme this year. The first is real life amplified. As we enter the next phase of the experience economy, we're about to see immersive tech inject some magic back into our real life experiences. As people craved entertainment, escapism, and searched for joy in their lives at the height of the pandemic, they turned to tech. Devices we used to play, interact, discover, and explore, and more people became familiar with immersive forms of tech. They experimented with voice-activated services, visual search, or augmented reality. And even if people didn't try these technologies, awareness of them certainly increased across a broader audience. Just look at AR across those older demographics. But first up, people still remain a bit wary of getting out and about quite as much as they did before. So in the immediate term, we'll see people embrace those immersive tech experiences that enhance their own personal real-world environments. The use of tech to visualise and try on products has really started to establish itself, but there's a lot more to come in this space. A few years ago, IKEA launched their Place AR app. Now we see another iteration of this, which is more entertainment-based via an AR escape room hosted on Snapchat that gamifies decluttering your own room, and it's shoppable. Trends bingo. We'll also see more immersive technology applied to everyday hobbies and activities like the Picture This visual search app, or audio experiences like Apple Watch's Time to Walk, which gamifies daily exercise routines. And when people are ready for those wider world experiences, immersive tech will be enhancing them more prominently too, both in a functional and entertainment-based way. People who haven't used this tech before are certainly more open to trying it. And at the moment, as our team shared earlier, shopping in person has lost its appeal. But over the coming years, immersive and engaging store experiences will play a much bigger role in enticing people in. Retailers will be testing in this space more noticeably where they're able. Outside of shopping, AR is set to play a much bigger role too, overlaying information onto the world around us, bringing games and enhanced experiences that transform our streets and entertainment venues. And museum and heritage sites could be a much richer experience. Eating out could be transformed. Restaurants are already testing AR activations and concepts like interactive dining tables. Even our holidays could be transformed. Companies are trialling AR for in-flight and cruise experiences. But it's not just AR. Other technologies such as hearables and voice could also enhance wider world experiences too, like this voice-activated storefront window. Enhanced media experiences in the real world are also at the heart of this trend. 3D billboard ads and AR activated out of home are generating great interest. AR is also being used as a successful connector between channels, adding a digital layer of interactivity to offline media. For instance, Cheetos embedded stealth Snapchat codes into its Super Bowl TV spot, unlocking a virtual bag of Cheetos that could be redeemed for a real product. We're also seeing totally new immersive media propositions emerge, like Outernet, who we're going to hear from later. Social commerce is also tying more fluidly into physical spaces. One van store has an integrated live streaming studio. And we'll also start to see an evolution of the tech that is powering these immersive experiences. Standalone AR and VR devices in the form of headsets and glasses will continue to make progress this year. Some big products are looming: Meta's next-gen VR headset, Sony's PlayStation VR 2, and Apple's expected VR/AR device, although the latter might be delayed again. These companies didn't reveal too much at CES, but there were some interesting smart glass prototypes and wrist-based VR controllers from other companies. However, we can't help but feel that it will still take time for the use cases and appeal of these devices to hit home. People remain confused over what some of these technologies are. Everything is still being generically referred to as virtual reality, for example. But we mustn't forget that there are other forms of immersive tech that are going to be progressing too. So voice interaction, spatial audio, hearables, and even haptic tech further down the line. A key watch out from the research though, these technologies must add to the real world experience and not detract from it. People want to be certain they're actually enjoying the moment rather than being distracted by the tech itself. And while the use of these technologies will pick up pace this year, the big impact will be felt in Europe in a few years as the widespread arrival of 5G acts as a catalyst for growth. Having said that, getting involved early will be key to gaining learnings. So in summary, with all of these developments, the boundaries between what is a physical experience and a digital one are becoming ever less clear. The result is actually more of a hybrid experience. And even when we might consider something as primarily a virtual activity, this could still have a physical presence too. Yahoo's latest virtual campaign for Selfridges included not only digital but physical collections of clothes, and the theme was also brought into store with a digital treasure hunt. It's clear the seamless interaction between all physical and digital interactions will be key. They no longer remain separate entities. And on to our second feature trend, over to you, under the experiences theme. The pandemic flipped media behaviours upside down. Ultimately, we saw more people creating their own content or immersing themselves more fully in the content they love. And this shows no signs of abating. The people are taking control, moving from passive media consumption to active participation. The concept of the creator economy certainly isn't new, but in the last few years, it's evolved way beyond what could be regarded as the traditional influencer space. Tech is enabling practically anyone to be a creator with a bit of tenacity, a decent phone camera, and an idea. Certainly, a fair few 25 to 34-year-olds don't think it would be that hard to become an influencer or streamer themselves. But the 50 million content creators out there, not all of them are amateurs. For a smaller number, it has become their livelihood, and some have even evolved their businesses into full-on production entities. It's all thanks to platforms like YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, and TikTok, who we'll hear from shortly. But it's not only happening in the social space. The creator economy stretches wider than that. Creator platforms and tools are expanding across the board. It's another step on the road to a future of empowerment and decentralisation, where the people, not the platforms, are in the driving seat. And with all these options available, it's no surprise that the big media platforms are trying to retain and entice successful creators of content. YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter and Clubhouse have all introduced new investment programs, incentives and tools, some of which are extending to tipping facilities and even to payment in cryptocurrency. The platforms are now more about enabling people to create content and rewarding them for doing so. But all these efforts might not be enough. Creators are migrating to platforms like Substack, Patreon and Cameo, where they feel the power is more in their hands. In a true decentralised creator economy, the vision is for there to be no gatekeepers at all. Some creators are working out how to go it alone, or are even seeking part ownership of the platforms themselves. The power is shifting. We also need to mention what this boom in the creator economy is doing to the media consumption model. The relationship between what creators produce and what the professionals produce is getting much more complicated. The lines between the two are certainly blurring. High production standards are still expected from professional content makers, but roll on new expectations of accessibility and authenticity. And indeed, we're now in a situation where the professionally created content can't really come alive as part of the cultural narrative without the creator-led content that exists around it. The two are becoming ever more interlinked. Take Squid Game, an otherwise under-the-radar release in Korea that took on a life of its own, fueled by creators and fan bases around the world. And let's talk about fans. It's not only the creator economy that's evolving, audiences are too, if we can indeed still call them that. We need to consider them more as communities. People have got a renewed focus when it comes to spending time on the things that they really love, and digital platforms are enabling it. Just look at the success of YouTube cooking channels, Twitch poker streams, and the growth of newer social platforms like Discord, Patreon, and Reddit. A fandom culture has emerged which is both amplifying and directing content. Gone are the days when influencers needed to post multiple times a day. Smart creators involve and fuel their community to keep the content going for longer. F1 driver Lando Norris does a great job of this with his Twitch community. Brands will need to be prepared for their content to go in any direction, driven by people's need for interaction and immersion. People could be using your brand logos, ads, soundtracks, effects, or even other assets to create an explosion of content that your brand has no control over. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. If you give them a canvas for more authentic brand collaboration, imagine the creative possibilities. The future is about finding ways to fuel these fandoms and communities, giving them a purpose, a platform for contribution, incentives to get involved, or even a stake in the proposition. Some of the above are great examples. And expectations for active participation and creative involvement are already growing across all forms of media. Just look at all of the participatory media activities early adopters are already taking part in. Gaming is the ultimate case in point. We play games. Customization, creation and self-expression are woven into the activity itself. Those raised in the digital age are already used to building worlds and customizing avatars, for example. They'll certainly expect this level of interactivity across their other media experiences in the coming years. And all platforms will need to get on board. Spotify, for example, are enabling people to create DJ-style content and access more interactive podcast formats. They're also testing interactive ads too. Going forward, AI will be at the heart of this trend too, enabling the user to have more say in the path of the content. In the future, tailored story options might be well inserted in exactly the same way that we do with dynamic ads. Brands like Netflix have tried this in the past, but we will see more experiment with this in the next few years. And on to our penultimate theme of a connected world. Look Who's Talking, our trend about tech and the spoken word, is making great progress, buoyed by a growing overall audio market. Automatic for the People accelerates as automated services are being used more and people are feeling more comfortable with them. And as people continue to spend more time at home, the knock-on effect on media, tech and connectivity remains in Home Sweet Home. And we've got two trends which are more static. Access all areas, where devices are starting to link up more effectively, but progress is slow. And OM5G, where progress is ticking along, but people's opinions still remain nonchalant. But on to our final feature trend, virtual insanity. Technology is expanding the possibilities of what we can experience virtually. Virtual shops, events, objects and currencies are all hitting the headlines, and the metaverse is all the industry seems to be talking about at the moment. But are we really ready for it? And how and when will it come about? The popularity of real-life experiences is never going away, but now people have been exposed to virtual alternatives, the benefits are more obvious. People certainly want more of a mix of in-person and virtual experiences now. The appeal of virtual shopping, training courses, work meetings and exercise classes is high, especially for younger people, which bodes well for the concept of the metaverse. But what exactly is the metaverse? Hundreds of different definitions exist, but probably the simplest way to think about it is a world of interconnected virtual spaces where people can socialise, work and play. And in an ideal world, nobody will own it, as hard as companies will try. The seeds of it exist, with people already attending virtual concerts and events in-game, but it will be 5 to 10 years before the metaverse is more fully realised. It's the interconnected part that isn't quite there yet. From the perspective of the general public, the whole metaverse concept is relatively alien at the moment, but the fact that they can see the appeal of doing more things virtually bodes well. But for brands, now it is certainly the time to experiment and be brave in some of these environments to both learn and shape the nature of brand interactions in these early stages. With ready-made audiences, currently gaming environments are the most popular testbed. All kinds of brands from Nike to Hellmann's are creating their own worlds or featuring digital products within games like Animal Crossing or Roblox. And brands are starting to experiment in more non-gaming social spaces like Decentraland too. Brands like Dermalogica are also creating their own virtual stores, a great way to broaden virtual audiences. Our research respondents quite liked that concept of virtual stores. They could see the appeal for those that couldn't make it to the shops or wanted a different and more immersive kind of online shop. Another way to broaden audiences is by anchoring virtual experiences to a wider campaign or well-established property. John Lewis did this with the latest Christmas campaign, teaming up with both I'm a Celebrity and Fortnite. Over time, the word metaverse will become less of a buzzword. And conversations are going to shift to being more widely about the next evolution of the internet. The internet is predominantly a 2D environment. And if we can play the video, we'll see that as websites and spaces evolve more into a 3D environment, like this Google Earth VR experiences, this is how it will evolve. Terms such as the immersive web or the spatial web are being used to describe it. Some, including Mark Zuckerberg, believe it will be the successor to the mobile internet, where people don't just see things on a screen, they can go inside and explore. But wider future of the internet conversations won't just be about the immersive web. Conversations will also focus on the increasingly decentralised web, or Web 3.0. This is internet applications that are powered by distributed ledger technology such as blockchain. Data is interconnected but not stored centrally, so users will be able to carry their context with them across digital environments, for example. Ironically, at the moment, people are more familiar with things like cryptocurrency, which has Web3 principles at its heart, than they are with the metaverse. So this one is going to be interesting to track over time. It's inevitable that how we represent ourselves in these virtual environments will take on more significance. Already, 43% of 16 to 24s use Bitmojis or avatars. Many people will start to see their virtual self as a personal extension of themselves. This might not just be about how they look, but also about their behaviour and values too, which could be steadfast or changeable given different contexts. Arguably, our online identity gives us even more scope for self-expression. Further down the line, people's digital identities will need to be transferable across all digital environments too. The Ready Player Me Hub, for example, now allows you to create and manage multiple avatars across apps. People will also be embracing more virtual goods as our digital identity rises in importance. The market for in-game objects and digital goods is already a big one, but some believe it could grow to be bigger than that of physical goods. So far, it's mostly luxury and fashion brands getting involved, launching new digital collections, featuring limited edition drops, or providing a means to kit out avatars. But use cases will expand beyond this quickly. Nike have such confidence in this that they have even started to trademark their assets for these spaces, which will allow them to take legal action against digital counterfeits. And brands are also starting to experiment with NFTs, non-fungible tokens. These are unique digital assets that people can buy and sell, which can take the form of pretty much everything, including goods, music, art, tweets, and even property. The buzz around these will be sustained in 2022. At CES, for example, Samsung announced plans to bring its NFT marketplaces to its smart TVs. But it's still early days, with 43% of people having actually heard of NFTs and only 25% having knowledge of them. Interest from early adopters is strong though. So far, brands have mainly been using NFTs to release collectible items. It's a niche space, and with mass computing power required, it generates environmental concerns currently, but it is one to watch for sure. And lastly, we have our data trends. No feature trend here, but some final thoughts on the trends in this space. Deadlines may have been pushed, but the end of third-party cookies is imminent in the cookie crumbles. Over time, people are becoming more accepting of the data exchange, but we also see fatigue around the topic of data and data management in destination data. In Proximity 2.0, local behaviours and location data still rule, and data sources continue to get ever more intimate, moving into the realms of body and mind in body talks. So that was a whistle-stop tour of our trends for this year, but what's next? The material we've created is designed to be more actionable than ever before. A big part of this was including media partner opinion so that we know what's on their radar and when it's likely to happen. I mentioned this earlier, but a huge thank you to over 20 media partners that contributed to our thinking. We'll continue to work with them using the trends to inform and drive innovative work for our clients in the year ahead. We also have some key considerations for each trend for brands to consider. I've tried to weave most of these into the narrative today, but do read the full report for more information. We've also applied an extra lens to our thinking this year too. It's true that businesses need innovation to grow, and our good growth proposition strives to make that growth enduring and responsible. When it comes to trying new things, we aim to embed a test and learn culture, encompassing it within a more strategic, longer lasting approach. This year, we've added growth maps into our feature trends, adding a now, next and future lens to opportunities with the potential to aid more detailed strategic plans for individual clients. Again, check out these in the full report.